A lot can happen within the family dynamic, and it's not all beautiful and it's not all healthy, and not all family relationships are supportive, not all family relationships are healthy, and sometimes because of this, family members can be estranged. And estrangement refers to the emotional or physical distancing between family members, often marked by minimal or no contact, unresolved conflict, and a breakdown in communication. It can arise from years of misunderstandings, emotional abuse, different values, or even the inability to meet familial expectations. Today we'll be unpacking the difficulties and complexities of the reality of estrangement in families. To help us better understand this journey and how to navigate it, we're joined on the line by clinical psychologist Tryphosa Siweya. They're helping us to really explore what estrangement means, the silent pain that it often precedes, and how individuals can begin the healing process, either through reconciliation or maybe sometimes just healing on your own and focusing on your own journey ahead. Thank you so much, Tryphosa, for your time. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, and I'm happy that you have me tomorrow.
You know, the word family, to most, if we just say it lightly, people will think of words like, support, togetherness, love, and the kind of people that have to help you through your life of journey. Almost like, we are tethered to one another for life, helping each other walk through life till death. But unfortunately, that is not how all families perceive one another. Let's speak about some of the dynamics that exist within family structures that may lead to estrangement.
I think indeed a family is considered as one of those natural protective factors, right? That whatever happens in life, right, one will always go back to family to find that kind of support, because it constitutes that natural bond, that one can always almost rejuvenate and regain the energy. However, like you said, it's not always the time that that kind of natural connection within family members will remain forever. Sometimes either very early in life or towards late adulthood, even middle adulthood, you find that family members would grow apart, either in terms of emotionally, sometimes even physical, where there's no contact, and where then family no longer serves that natural purpose of being a support structure. And there are a number of reasons that could cause that, right? I think the underneath, or the main reason, is differences that ensue as people grow up, or as families navigate each other. And differences can come in a number of ways, right? It can come in terms of differences in affiliations, right? Either religious affiliations. You would agree that it's possible for someone to be born into a particular a religion in a family, but when they grow up, then either due to exposure or other forms of associations that they make outside that immediate structure, whether it's school or friends, they tend to come up with their own religious preferences. That can also cause differences. Sometimes it can also be, sexual orientation, right? Which may not really always subscribe to what has been considered as the general understanding that has been upheld in the family. Sometimes it can even be political, reasons, right? So all these factors that tend to make families differ in one or more of core identifying factors of life. Religion, which is also part of that, but sometimes even social class, a family which considers itself as maybe a middle class family, and maybe one of the family members fails to meet or to get to that level, then it causes some form of difference, and that's how in most families estrangement begins.
Well, we need to take a break. I'm glad that we got that introduction, because there are so many reasons and one doesn't always look like another. It's funny because as I was scrolling through my TikTok this morning, came across a post of a young woman who showed a screenshot of a message that she got from her own mother, her biological mother. And I'll read that a little bit later when we come back from the break, which is something that may cause estrangement, but really shows how heart-wrenching the process of estrangement can be to one. It's 20 minutes past 9 Central Africa time. We're chatting about estrangement, and we'll be back with clinical psychologist Tryphosa Siweya after this.
Channel Africa and you have got something in common. The thirst for knowledge. Get set and be ready to go. On the move with Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama.
So we're speaking about family estrangement, what it means, the silent pain that it often precedes, and how individuals can begin to heal, either within the family unit or by themselves. This morning I was scrolling through TikTok, and a young woman by the name of Nombulelo Rabi posted a screenshot from a message she got from her mother. It says, "You'll never be anything in life, but keep trying. One day you'll just get tired and you'll take your own life. I see you block me on WhatsApp, but that doesn't change the fact that that means that I don't wish anything good for you and for what your father did for me years ago. I wanted to get rid of you, but it didn't work. And 23 years later, I'm stuck with you. And every time I look at you, I see your father." It goes on to say at the end that you'll never amount to anything. You'll never get married. And if things get tough for you, don't come to me. And it's a hard message for anyone to experience from their biological mother. And of course, in the comments,
so
people
who's
are like,
sending who the message there?
So the mother is sending this to her daughter.
Like, wow, that's terrible.
That is terrible. And, speaking about family estrangement, Tryphosa, this are but some of the reasons that people get estranged from their families. Sometimes it's siblings just not getting along because of some of the family traumas that have happened from the parents. And in this case, from the message that I've read, it's the traumas that this mother experienced from the child's father that she's held on all these years and now has forwarded to the child herself.
Yes, no, that's very sad. Unfortunately, things can get to that extent. And like I was saying earlier, I think the main issue you should understand is that families are constituted of relationships, right? And all the factors that are unnecessary to maintain relationships also should also apply when it comes to family. And we tend to forget that because with family there's that strong natural bond, therefore, maybe there's not necessity, right, to apply some of the glue that holds relationships together. And some of that, of course, is the ability to deal with conflict, right? Because in any relationship, there's always going to be a form of conflict on the other. And like I said earlier, that there's always going to be differences as people grow up. And always those differences will cause some form of friction that will invite the family to a table where they resolve conflict. Unfortunately, in terms of how families deal with conflict, sometimes it's in a way that is too selfish. It's in a way that does not show compromise. Like I said, when there's differences, then the ultimate healthy solution is to find a way in which you can compromise and deal with those differences without making those differences cause a difference or a barrier or a bridge between the two of you, which is classically the estrangement that we're talking about. So in most families, there's lack of tolerance, right, in terms of how they deal with conflict. And there's also lack of compromise, lack of understanding or putting, yourself in another person's shoes. But there's also a consistent pattern of selfishness as well, right, that can get someone to a point where they say things as what you see, in that message. Of course, we don't know what is the context in terms of what the mother who's sending the message may have suffered, either from the father's side or even from her own daughter. But you can see this anger that, that is behind that. And it shows that it's something that was never resolved, unresolved anger. So, which of course then is also part of an unresolved conflict. So all relationships depend on the ability to deal with conflict, which in almost all cases may have to draw two people to a point of compromise. And that's why you find families where, there's people who are in different social classes economically, there's people who are, in different religious affiliations, there are people who are in different political affiliations, but this is still a family that, that unites and they still have what we call a family in them because they've been able to strike a compromise. They've got a certain level of tolerance amongst each other. And not everyone is forced, to behave like the other. They've come to that point where they allow everyone to be themselves. And it's not always being the same that it makes them family. And that's what we mean by in terms of tolerance.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, how do you break down that process? Because it must be difficult. I mean, Palesa used a very hectic example there of like a very huge personal conflict between a mother and a daughter. From your perspective, Tryphosa, what would you say would be the first way forward to actually confront an estranged situation? How do you start even approaching a family member and unpacking the dispute or maybe the problems that are happening in the relationship? Because that's where things sometimes just spiral downwards, and then if you confront someone without any form of mediation or without a good strategy, things just get even worse.
Thanks for putting that question. My thinking is that estrangement is a painful process, right? I don't think anyone can move away from their family out of joy, It's pain that pushes them away. And like I said, it's because there was conflict in the beginning. So what I would want to do from a psychological point of view is to understand what is the pain, that has pushed this person away, and being able to address and show some form of care towards that, get to listen to this person's story and understand what was their pain that drove them away. Right? Because we cannot, like you're saying, we cannot be able to resolve and reconnect people without understanding what is the pain that pushed them away. Because that pain will come back together. And it is the same thing that makes them different or perceive each other as being different from the other. Right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of either perception or reality that causes them to be apart. But another thing, of course, this thing would also go back to maybe what form of parental styles that were there, in the beginning, and whether those styles fostered what kind of attachment, that were developed or encouraged in the family, either within the sibling category or even within the parents.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Do you think the best way, as we wrap it up, to deal with this estrangement is getting a mediator? Because a mediator would probably be the best person who's neutral, who can be able to facilitate the conversation between family members.
Yes, correct.
What's your take on this one? Have you ever been separated intentionally from a family member, saying, I do not want to speak with this family member anymore, or an entire group of people that you were like, I know I'm related to these people, but I do not no longer want to be associated with them. It's not good for me. It's not good for them. Or maybe you're the one who's been thrown out of the space. Maybe you are a member of the LGBTQ plus community, and they were like, no, you've made a decision that we don't really agree with here in our family. So, we don't want you in the family. There's so many reasons why estrangement takes place. How has it happened? Have you had that experience? Give us your thoughts on our WhatsApp number +27 63 406 9126, or you can text us or voice note us there, and text us on that live stream as well if you are joining us there.
It's hard though to think that the people who essentially, when you look around you, are the support systems of others, are those that walk through life with you, are just not that to you. And we before we wrapped up, we were speaking about mediation, and unfortunately there are two endings to a situation of family estrangement, and one could possibly be that mediation taking place, healing taking place on all fronts, and the trauma being fixed, and then the family coming back together. And unfortunately the other could just be the family being estranged for life. And sometimes that is the benefit of something like that, to say, I am better off just by myself without these people, healing just as an individual, and then moving on. So let us know what circumstances could have happened in your life that have led into family estrangement, if you've been in that kind of situation, if you've witnessed that situation in your extended families or maybe from friends, etc. Do you think people can heal from that kind of situation, or sometimes is it better off to just be without the family dynamic? Let's hear from you. Our WhatsApp number is +27 63 406 9126. That's also our direct line, but we're also live on Facebook. Find us there. We are Channel Africa, so you can also comment on our live, and we're able to engage in real time over there, as well as on Instagram and YouTube at Channel Africa 1.